Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Catching Up with Aaron, number 2. Day of recording is May 9th, 2022. And first, I'd just like to thank everyone who took the time to watch the very first episode. It was obviously something that I wanted to continue, and a lot of great feedback, a lot of great support, and a lot of people that resonated as well with sort of the topic of last week's discussion was sort of, navigating your 20s and understanding your 20s. Also had a couple people message me privately as to like why I'm sitting on the floor. I'm sitting on an ottoman. I don't know if the camera catches that or not, but I'm not actually sitting on the floor. It's a very scuffed setup right now, but it'll make do for now, and that's actually kind of what I wanted to discuss in today's episode, and kind of not being afraid of just posting something for the sake of posting it, and just kind of putting it out there and not worrying too much about perfection. So for those who are tuning in for the very first time, this is a weekly series where I just kind of have a very authentic, natural, one-take conversation with y'all, the audience, and just talk about sort of what happened last week, what I'm looking forward to this week, and one big takeaway out of this kind of past week as well. So it was regarding sort of discussing obviously creating this content piece, and for me last week that was sort of the biggest kind of, I guess, obstacle or biggest thing that was kind of on my mind last week of, how are people going to take this? Are people going to resonate with the content? Is it bad? Is it terrible? Is it bad lighting? All these kind of like different things as a content creator that you kind of have simultaneously going on in the back of your head. And I'm sure if you're a content creator as well, or even put any sort of kind of putting yourself out there online in any shape or form, I'm sure you can understand that it sometimes does get a little bit nerve-wracking as to how people are going to react. But I think for me it was really nice to just be able to, as I said, just honestly sit down, let my mind kind of just flow with words and see what comes out there. And I'm happy again that some people were able to resonate with sort of the topic of last week, and navigating your 20s, and how everyone's at a different point in their life, and that it's okay if you don't have it figured out by the time you're 22, 24, 25, 26, 27, etc. So I'm really happy that some of you found some encouragement, and hopefully as well continue to do so with these episodes. But that's kind of my main focus, I think, of last week, and kind of reflecting on last week as well. Of I just want to put out the content. I don't want to worry too much about the fancy lighting or the edits or the effects or anything of that nature. I just want to be consistent with it. I think for me that was the biggest struggle as well, as I first started YouTube, I guess, or first put my first YouTube out there, put my first YouTube video out there back in, it was over 2 years ago, May of 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic. I put my first video regarding like how to start a podcast, and I was very hesitant again if people were going to resonate with that or what the outcome of that video was. And to be honest, I just kind of stopped being consistent after that. I put a couple of other videos since then, but kind of one-offs, and just again the creativity aspect was sort of restricted by this want of it being perfect. And I think that's sort of the biggest obstacle that maybe not just content creators do, but just people in general, of the need of always needing to be the best version of yourself when you're putting it out there, or making sure that it's like the best shot possible, especially if you're just starting off. And for me it was the main reason as well as to why I'm even creating this like little docu-series is I want to challenge myself to be consistent. And there's going to be some days where maybe the content is not going to hit as well with the audience, or people won't resonate with it as much as maybe other topics. So this is a challenge, I guess, as much as it is to myself. And I do enjoy obviously making these things and making these little video content pieces for y'all. So I think for me that was like the biggest reflection point of last week of, don't be afraid of just putting it out there. It's better to at least have some content than always thinking to yourself, it has to be perfect, it has to be perfect. And I've been battling with that, like whether it be sort of that sense of perfection or whatever it might be. Even with my podcast, when I first started that 3 years ago, my very first episode was, I think, 15 minutes long, and it took me almost 4 hours to record, just because I kept doing it over and over and over and over and over. And almost 70 episodes later, here we are. So if you're listening out there and you're watching this and you're hesitant of, should I start, posting my pictures online in terms of, your photography or videography, or you draw some art and you're really talented as an artist and you're unsure if you want to do that, or hey, you're an aspiring, YouTuber, if you will, and you have like a really cool content series that you want to start posting online, and you're just unsure of how it's going to go, my recommendation would be to just go for it, test it out, be consistent. I think that's the biggest struggle of any sort of building an online presence, is the aspect of consistency. Build that routine, and I'm hoping that in a month's time these videos are just going to be like second nature, right? Of it's noon, time to record a video, and have that ready to go. So hopefully some people resonate with that and can relate to that in some capacity. On a kind of less, I guess, business side of things, last week was pretty good. I ended up going to that screening that I mentioned. It was really nice to see the film industry in BC kind of, I guess, revamp since obviously the pandemic. Some very talented filmmakers here in Vancouver and in the Vancouver area and the Vancouver community. I'm not sure if you've heard this before. Some people refer to the Vancouver and the film industry as the true, Hollywood North. So it was really nice to be surrounded by people in the creative space in some capacity. So a big shout out again to all those people for setting that up, and Crazy 8 Films for having such an amazing event. And I think this past week was just more as well of recharging again and understanding sort of where I'm going to take this little content series. So it was really nice and heartwarming to read everyone's messages of, again, relating to the certain topics. So that's kind of last week and a recap of that. In regards to sort of what's coming up this week, I think my main focus for this week is sort of continuing to obviously create this video series, but as well as find a way in terms of how I can repurpose this content a little bit more. I was able to do so last week by posting a reel and a TikTok, but maybe creating this into like a little blog or some form of repurposable content, so I can obviously maximize the time that I'm spending. And that would be another kind of, I guess, tip or something that is always in the back of my mind, again, as a content creator, of you're spending all this time building this big content piece. In what ways can you leverage that content piece into different aspects? And you might have heard of the content pyramid by Gary Vee, and a lot of other obviously influencers or people in the creative space that can help obviously produce different ways of how you can, again, leverage your content and maximize the time that you're spending, right? I take about, let's say, 10 minutes to film this, another maybe half an hour to edit it, etc. So just being cognizant of your time, and especially if you're a one-person show when it comes to creating the content itself. I think as well, like as I mentioned last week, I'm kickstarting the podcast with my first kind of comeback guest next week. It's all going to be in person again. I'm really, really looking forward to that. Bought some new equipment. I'm all in on that. And I'm just really excited to, again, have these conversations with people and in person and not over a Zoom recording, where, to be quite honest, that has honestly fatigued me a little bit. And one of the main reasons why I put the podcast on a little bit of a hiatus was because I wasn't really feeling the passion, I guess, anymore, as it was just, going through screen over screen and just recording it. And you connect with people on a completely different level when you are in person as opposed to over a screen. So really looking forward to that this week, or I guess next week as well. But that's something that's kind of in the horizon, and I'm kind of just amped on really just getting that also content stream going up again, being consistent, finding guests, connecting with people, sharing their stories. One of the main reasons why I continue to do the podcast, even after, almost 4 years of doing it, is just because of the people that I meet and the connections that I make. So really looking forward to that. Other than that, the weather is thankfully getting nicer here in Vancouver. A little bit cool still for May, in my opinion, but I'm just really excited to spend a little bit more time, as I said earlier, outdoors and just kind of get the ball rolling when it comes to that. And I think really that's sort of what I'm looking forward to this week. And in terms of kind of the content that's going to be coming up, if you follow me already personally or know me personally, that's going to be available soon in terms of the podcast. I'm going to put all the links in the description if you do want to check that out, if you're watching this, a week later or 2 weeks later, or however down the road in the future. But in regards to sort of like the biggest takeaway for me this week was definitely just, again, re-emphasizing the aspect of just putting the content out there, taking the risk of, showcasing what you have, and stop being afraid or stop trying to always make it quote unquote perfect, right? Because that term in itself is sort of subjective. there's no such thing as perfect art or anything along those lines. I think really the main point of this content, even that I'm doing right now, for example, is the ability to just really authentically connect with people and resonate with them. And I think that's what a lot of people are just wanting. You see like social media where it's all like, the best of the best in terms of people's lives, and fancy cars, etc., that like kind of lifestyle, right? And the term, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but like keeping up with the Joneses, in terms of always wanting to make sure that you're up with the latest trend, you know what's in, what's out, and stuff like that. And I think especially now with everything that's been going on, people just want to see the real side of people, I guess, for lack of a better word. And the content doesn't have to be masked with like edits or filters or anything along those lines. They just want to hear and resonate with what you have to say. So that's, again, hoping that something that I hope that a lot of people get out of this little mini series here. So yeah, just if you're an aspiring, whatever, my recommendation would just to just put what you love out there, what you're passionate about, your content, or whatever it is you're doing, aspiring musician, videographer, any sort of industry, really. If people like what you do and what you stand for and who you are, I think you just have to build sort of that I guess following first, and be authentic with who you are as an individual. So yeah, other than that, I hope everyone has an amazing week. I know not this week, but the following week is long weekend, so hopefully you've got some plans in the works. Hopefully the weather keeps up in terms of how sunny it is today. But other than that, I really do appreciate everyone who tuned in to the very first episode last week. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you're tuning in now and you're new, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I will be consistent with these videos once a week. And everything else as well. If you want to connect with me on social, available in the description down below. Thank you so much, everyone. Hopefully you have an amazing, again, rest of your day. And once again, my name's Aaron, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care.